Sunak has scripted history by becoming the 57th Prime Minister of Britain, replacing once leadership rival Liz Truss as this country actually faces a severe economic crisis. He is the youngest and first Indian origin Prime Minister of Britain who enjoyed the support of over 50% of Conservative MPs, making him the clear winner in the leadership race. But politics has erupted back home, with opposition parties such as the Congress and the BJP saying India must learn diversity from the United Kingdom. The BJP has hit back, saying India has had 3 Muslim and 1 Sikh president, a Sikh Prime Minister for 10 years, as well as minorities in top judicial positions and even the armed forces. The Saffron Party has made it clear India does not need to learn about diversity and inclusivity from any other country.
And I have been elected as leader of my party and your Prime Minister, in part, to fix them. And that work begins immediately.
While Rishi Sunak has made history by becoming UK's first British Asian Prime Minister, his selection has triggered a political storm in India. Many opposition leaders have used Sunak's victory to target the BJP. Congress MP and former Finance Minister P. Chidambaram said there is a lesson to be learnt by India and the parties that practice majoritarianism. His fellow partyman Shashi Tharoor followed suit.
To actually create a situation where a brown man can become Prime Minister. I think that's an extraordinary achievement. I would really like to see the Hindutvavadis of the BJP being prepared to embrace somebody. Would they embrace somebody who is an overtly practicing Muslim or Christian as Prime Minister?
Former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister and PDP Chief Mehbooba Mufti said that while the UK has accepted an ethnic minority member as its Prime Minister, India is still shackled by discrimination. The BJP immediately dismissed the opposition's claims.
India is rejoicing, Indians are rejoicing globally. So let us celebrate that. Today is not the occasion for political divide.
जी और एक लंबी श्रृंखला है, तमाम जो संवैधानिक पद हैं उस पर जो है वो कभी जाति, धर्म और कुनबा ये नहीं महत्व रहा, काबिलियत महत्वपूर्ण रही.
The fact of the matter is that India has had a Sikh Prime Minister, several Muslim presidents, and the current head of state is from the tribal community. So is the opposition's majoritarianism argument far-fetched, or is there a need to introspect?
Joining me now, Tuhin Sinha, spokesperson of the BJP. Dr. Udit Raj is the leader of the Congress party. Nilanjan Das is a political analyst. I also have Professor Kapil Kumar, historian. Dr. Udit Raj, India has had minorities in the top constitutional offices, and that is about merit over minoritism that the Congress party is talking about. Then how does this broad-based equivalence of Rishi Sunak's emergence really help Indian politics?
See, first of all, Maria Sakil, I'm meeting you after a long time, hearing
Yes,
your name.
you
I
are.
agreed to come on the channel, and let's see that the yardsticks which ruling party adopts differs in a very big way. In 2004, they said that Sonia ji can't become PM, and it's a stalwart leader like Sushma Swaraj ji said that she'll get her head transferred, she will quit the politics.
No, but that's a different argument. I'm talking about
listen. Listen, let me one.
Okay. Continue.
And even and not only that, they did not stop to that only. One of their leaders, minister, and Bihar BJP president said that even if children born from foreign origin mother cannot be a patriot to this extent. So what happened then? Why
are you questioning the foreign origin here? Are you then talking about foreign origin or talking about minoritism? Because there are two different ideas then here.
Or listen, you cannot, let me answer, that is my freedom. You chose the subject according to your choice. Let me supplement. Only one sentence I'm going to say is that same people are now jumping and congratulating what morale they have.
Okay.
So
now you have no moral according to the Congress party. Please go ahead.
Secondly, the minority president, the minority has become a president and prime minister because of the Congress, not because of the BJP. That is to be noted. That is to be noted. Okay. And let me complete it. That is not because of BJP. BJP entire foundation is laid against
I was about to give you details of here
BJP will not stand.
The question here is, I wanted to remind you of history. Dr. Zakir Hussain, third president of India, Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad, Gyani Zail Singh from the Sikh community, APJ Abdul Kalam, minoritism of a different nature in Draupadi Murmu as the first tribal woman president. Then you have Dr. Manmohan Singh from the Sikh community as the Prime Minister for 10 years. Then you have had Justice Muhammad Hidayatullah Muslim as the Chief Justice of India. India has appointed Fatima Bibi, a Muslim woman, as a Supreme Court judge in 1989. The list is long. Tuhin Sinha, respond to what the charge is coming from Dr. Udit Raj.
The absolutely unwarranted and callous comments by Shashi Tharoor ji and P. Chidambaram only point towards, the colonial mindset and the hypocrisy of the Congress party. And when I say colonial mindset, it also borders on an inferiority complex, because like you have read out the long list of minority, people who have occupied or who have been on top positions. I don't know how Congress could forget it. You are from Bihar. You would recall that Abdul Ghafoor had become the Chief Minister of Bihar in 1973.
Yes.
A.R. Antule became the Chief Minister of Maharashtra in 1980. At that point of time, did anybody make a big issue about religion? They became the Chief Minister at that point of time because they were qualified at that point of time. But the Congress comments on this issue is particularly dangerous for two reasons. One, if you look at the hypocrisy of it, they just had the party elections. Shashi Tharoor could easily have made way for, somebody like Udit Raj, a Dalit leader, at least he calls himself a Dalit leader, or he could have done better by trying to woo Ghulam Nabi Azad to come back to the party and become the party president.
But they have a Dalit president now.
That happened.
They have a Dalit president in Mr. Kharge.
You are not crossing him.
Yes.
You are not crossing him.
One moment. Dr. Udit Raj. Dr. Udit Raj, one moment, please.
He is a bit
Okay.
He
should answer your question.
Visible minority. It's a very dangerous precedent. What does visible minority mean? Does a Sikh community not qualify to be visible minority? That sets a very dangerous precedent for the country.
Okay. Professor Kapil Kumar.
Maria, I have to say a lot. When Congress talks of this, please go back to 1946 April. Udit Raj ji, remember this Congress history, you won't be knowing. When Nehru was selected as Congress president against the wishes of all the provincial Congress committees.
Is it the subject today?
And the Congress president
to be discussed. Come on the point.
Please listen, I didn't interfere in you. Mr. Udit Raj, have some manners.
No, you
have some manners, otherwise I won't debate with you. I didn't interfere in you.
Okay, Udit Raj ji, listen to Professor Kapil Kumar. Professor Kapil Kumar. Professor Kapil Kumar on the screen now, please. Only Professor Kapil Kumar.
Silence him.
Only Professor Kapil Kumar. Yes, go ahead.
You see, the Congress president normally changes in the Congress sessions. And the Congress session was to be held in Meerut sometime in September, October. And Maulana Azad was the Congress president at that time. And it was known that who is the Congress president will become the Prime Minister of the interim government of India in 1946. But Gandhi got Congress presidentship handed over to Nehru in the month of May by Maulana Azad, and on record there is a letter written by Maulana Azad to Gandhi you did not trust me. That is one. Second, the Congress ruled for so many years in this country. Why didn't they make any Muslim prime minister? Because they wanted prime ministerships always for their family. And even now, the lust is for that. Why don't they make Congress president a Muslim? Why don't they make it?
Okay. The challenge has been thrown on you. Dr. Udit Raj, respond to this.
Give me answer to my question.
They are not focusing, they are not answering your query in the sense that BJP does not give any ticket to Muslims, and BJP whole edifice is laid on anti-Muslims, and they are the people who are talking about the Congress credential. Barring exception, this president post is a ceremonial given to Adivasi person. Otherwise, it's a Congress who has moral to say, yes, they have given representation.
But Dr. Udit Raj, you have not answered the specific question that has been raised by the historian.
I am coming to that.
Basic question that has been raised by Professor Kapil Kumar is saying that why isn't the Congress party, the grand old party, making a Muslim the party president? You can make him. You have had an example in Ghulam Nabi Azad, senior most leader.
No, you see, one-sided. You are also completely biased.
No, you can level that charge. That is not the first time that you are doing it. It will happen.
Okay. I ask about the BJP.
No, he can ask you questions, right?
1 minute.
He can ask anybody. He can raise questions against anybody. Yes. Okay, let's have both of them on the screen now. Yes.
Maria, one more question I want to ask.
Yes, go ahead, Professor Kapil Kumar. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. Udit Raj gave examples that Sonia should not be made Prime Minister. Sushma Swaraj said this said that. What? Who was in majority at that time? Congress. AICC session was taking off Congress. Congress Working Committee meeting was taking place. Why did the Congress Working Committee didn't make Sonia Gandhi and President and chose Manmohan Singh? Why? It is Congress who denied Sonia Gandhi, not Manmohan Singh, not BJP. Why is he bringing BJP? Let him look at his own party. And he has no party. Because every 6 months he changes a party. When he was in BJP, BJP was very good. Now he is out of BJP. BJP is very bad.
Okay.
What is this?
Dr. Udit Raj, respond.
Why Congress did not appoint Sonia Gandhi as Prime Minister?
Okay, Dr. Udit Raj. Professor Kapil Kumar, you asked question. Let him respond. Yes, Dr. Udit Raj, respond. Specifics.
I'm not like you, Professor Kapil Kumar. Being in BJP, I had disagreed on many issues. Not like you, a blinded one. And
I am
secondly,
not like BJP and not said not
you
like
are complete. You should join BJP.
You have always cashed out BJP. I know that. And I can give you examples from
you have not answered the BJP leader.
You have not answered my one
BJP leader saying that
because you don't have any evidence to answer me.
Foreign origin mother cannot be patriot, cannot be loyal to the nation. You are answering it. You are not answering. You
have not understood my question, Mr.
What about the Sushma Swaraj? It's our internal matter. You people question about the president-elect in Congress. You people, Mr. Modi can make anybody chief minister and next month.
No, but how is that relevant? Dr. Udit Raj, we also have to bring Tuhin Sinha back into this discussion. Tuhin Sinha, this charge of no Muslim MP. Yes, I can see Nilanjan Das as well. Nilanjan Das, the TMC, the PDP, all of them have taken the line similar to that of the Congress party. But if you look at it, and India's history is replete with several examples of minorities, not just Muslims, but even Sikhs and minorities in the form of a tribal who have been given representation. So would you say that India will be judged far more fairly when global history is written?
Exactly, Maria, but we are talking about today's date. what the BJP has done of this country. We are talking about that. You will remember that India is the country that produced a woman prime minister much before the United Kingdom.
Yes.
So, given that, so India has been quite progressive from that angle, but today what the BJP has done of it, today they don't have one Muslim MP. Why I'm talking about this? Because this is the question of the visible minority. Doesn't the BJP consider any Muslim patriotic or any Muslim eligible to represent the people of India in the highest panchayat of the land?
Okay.
So these are the questions that are relevant.
So basically,
the question is towards the BJP and not towards India.
Okay. So
all these
Nilanjan, you are essentially saying. Yes, so
the
all the
BJP
examples,
all these leaders,
of inclusivity and diversity is before 2014. It's before 2014, not after 2014. Is what the charge is, Dr. Yes, Tuhin.
It's a very cliched charge. Why don't you give tickets? If you look at it, on an average, if you go by data, 6 to 8% of Muslims have been lately voting for us. So where do we hunt for the candidates? We have 4 Muslim spokespersons in the party. How many does TMC have? So I think it's a very unfair charge. If you look at our deliverance of our schemes, whether it is Nal Se Jal, whether it is any other, the beneficiaries, the Muslim beneficiaries have been in unprecedented numbers, and that is what should matter. We have never, done a bhed-bhav between different communities. But when Udit Raj constantly puts this forth, let me remind him that we recently nominated Ghulam Ali to Parliament from Jammu, and he belongs to one of the most backward Muslim communities in Jammu and Kashmir. So we have always taken care of backward communities, but when the argument is of a visible majority, that is something I have an issue with, because that is a very dangerous precedent there. That is where you're dividing minorities time and again.
Have they given a single ticket to Muslim?
Have you given a single ticket to one Muslim in West Bengal, which has 30% Muslim representation?
Udit Raj, if you
don't have one Muslim leader.
Give tickets to the wrong people. Winnability is the most important thing in an election.
Okay, all Muslims are wrong people. This is your ideology. This is the ideology of the BJP. They think that Muslims are unpatriotic. They think that Muslims are the wrong people for India. They don't consider Muslims as Indians. They consider Muslims as...
Nilanjan, the counter argument can be, then why this just tokenism? If it's about winnability, BJP has identified its constituency, and that constituency and the party believes in winnability.
Maria Sakil, you are very
bad. That is the point, Maria. They have that is the concept of majoritarian politics. That is what we are talking about.
You are
the Congress or the TMC
you are like a spokesperson of
or minority appeasement, as they allege.
Replace Mamata Banerjee with Firhad Hakim?
What kind of an argument is this? What kind of an argument? This is what is tokenism.
Can he win elections for you? He won't be able to win elections for you.
Don't talk rubbish on national television, please. Let's not get into all this rubbish Malviya kind of arguments.
No, what do you mean? If you can't walk the talk, don't throw unreal challenges.
No, you walk. We are not throwing any kind of unreal challenges. And you are talking about the Honorable President of India. Does the BJP consider the Honorable President of India as not a Hindu? I want to ask this question.
Where does this come from? I mean, you must be on a wrong debate. Where does this come from?
No, because you're talking about it as a different kind of minority. I don't understand the meaning of
I have just enough time for Professor Kapil Kumar. Professor Kapil Kumar, I have already been declared a biased journalist who's not conducting a fair debate. Please go ahead. I'll give you the final comments.
For politics?
Yes.
And that is
Maria, you mentioned about Mehbooba Mufti, talking of minority prime ministership and all. How much Mehbooba Mufti cares herself for minorities is known for her stand of what happened to Kashmiri Pandit minorities in Kashmir. Did she ever raise a word when they were murdered, when they were tortured, when they were thrown out of the state? So this whole nonsensical things which they bring in, all this debate and issues they are raising is because they don't find the issues, so they bring in Hindu and Muslim. Let it be known that every citizen India is citizen of India, whether a Muslim, a Sikh, a Christian, a Dalit, or an ST or anyone. And this whole Congress thing which they started, periphery and marginal,
Okay.
So they start this minority and all
Dr.
majority
Udit Raj,
business.
Dr. Udit Raj, isn't this entire argument that has been put forth by some of your leaders of your party purely superficial? It's just superficial.
It has a very deep meaning. It reflects the reality of BJP. It reflects the reality of this government that none of you, Maria, none of you, neither Professor Kapil has answered that why BJP has not given a single ticket to the Muslims. And of course, it's a broad daylight and nobody is talking about. You are not taking up this question. And still those people who are discussing about Congress history, you are talking about.
This is not about India. The BJP does not represent Indianness.
And this was supposed to be about making an observation in the context of the new UK Prime Minister. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Udit Raj, Tuin Sinha, Nilanjan Das and Professor Kapil Kumar. I spoke to Congress MP Shashi Tharoor, who says India has much to learn when it comes to the representation of minorities from United Kingdom. Listen in. Rishi Sunak is the new UK Prime Minister. And back home here in India, it has led to a political war of words between the BJP and the Congress. Joining me now on this special broadcast is senior Congress leader Shashi Tharoor. Dr. Tharoor, really appreciate your time. And your tweet has set off a storm. One may say that this invocation of majoritarian angle in Rishi Sunak's elevation is superficial, sir.
Well, look, I mean, the fact is that they have overlooked a fundamental question of race, that he is a brown-skinned person. He is not of Anglo-Saxon stock or English stock or Scots stock or anything like that. He is somebody of Indian origin. And the British, who were notorious and justifiably so for their racial discrimination for a couple of centuries of imperial conquest and rule, a country that used to have racial restrictions on who could enter their clubs in India and Africa till half a century, 60 years ago. Such a country has been able to outgrow the worst of its own prejudices to actually create a situation where a brown man can become prime minister. I think that's an extraordinary achievement. Secondly, they've overlooked his religion. I mean, he is an overtly practicing Hindu, proud of his faith, takes his oath on the Bhagavad Gita. He is somebody who, even when campaigning for the Tory party leadership a couple of months ago, tweeted pictures of himself performing a cow puja and praying to Lord Krishna on Janmashtami. This is somebody who's absolutely overtly proud of practicing a faith which is not only not the majority faith in Britain, but is actually at odds with the established church there, which is, as you know, the Anglican Christian church. So here you've got somebody who's a double minority, as it were, and the British have been able to overlook their prejudices and take him on.
Yes.
I would really like to see the Hindutvavadis of the BJP being prepared to embrace somebody who comes from a different ethnicity, such as, for example, you remember when Sonia Gandhi was offered the premiership by her victorious coalition in 2004, you remember what the BJP said then, and the BJP leader wanted to shave her head and go on dharna outside Parliament. And then if there's somebody who goes outside the Indic religions, because Hindutva has always said that Hindus, Sikhs, Jains, Buddhists, they're all the same, they're all their holy land is this land, but anyone from anywhere else is actually a foreigner in our country.
Okay.
Would they embrace somebody who's an overtly practicing Muslim or Christian as Prime Minister?
Dr.
I'm
Tharoor,
asking this in all genuineness. Yes. I'm not saying that it's... I think we have to acknowledge that what's happened is very different from what would happen here.
But Dr. Tharoor, what the BJP is saying is, and it's reminding you of Indian history, that India has had 3 presidents from the minority communities. Dr. Zakir Hussain, the 3rd president of India, was a Muslim. Justice Hidayatullah, who acted as an acting president.
I know Indian history, Maria.
Yes, of course. Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed, Gyani Zail Singh.
But we also know that the presidency... We also know the presidency is a largely ceremonial office and contains absolutely no power. The Prime Minister holds the power in this country. We know that very well, which is why it's possible for them to appoint to Rashtrapati Bhavan figures who do represent in many ways the diversity we'd like to celebrate in our country. It's wonderful to have an Adivasi president. We've had 2 Dalit presidents. We've had 3 Muslim presidents. All of this is a very good thing because it signifies that we can use this very high office, high in prestige but low in power, to use that office for such purposes. But when it comes to real power, we have had the prime ministership held only by Hindus, with one exception being a Sikh, but most Hindus would not regard that as such an exception as it would be to have someone from a quote-unquote non-Indic religion. Now, this is what is remarkable, I think, about what the Brits have done. I'm no Anglophile. I've written about British racism. I've written about British imperialism. I've been uncompromising in my criticism of that. But I have to admit that one has to take one's hat off for recognizing that they were able to outgrow their long decades and centuries of racial prejudice. They were able to overcome their religious scruples, and they were able to say, let's look at the merit of this individual and go for him, whatever his racial and religious background.
Okay. Dr. Tharoor,
and not to mention his age. I mean, in India,
yes.
let's just ask you, Maria, this is a guy who got elected for the first time in 2015. He's been 7 years an MP.
Yes.
7 years, and within 5 years he became finance minister. Within 7 years he became prime minister. In any ruling party in India, he'd be lucky to be an MOS at that time. So that too is a remarkable thing. So when I say, could it happen in India, you should look at race, you should look at religion, you should look at age and experience. Okay. We have, I think, valuable lessons to learn about how merit and ability should trump such considerations, and they don't in our country.
I'm going to talk about the age factor in just a bit, Dr. Tharoor, since tomorrow it will be the day when Mallikarjun Kharge will be formally taking charge as the Congress president, and you have said that the change has already begun in your party because you contested against him. Dr. Tharoor, we have had Dr. Manmohan Singh. You yourself talked about it. He was a Sikh born in an undivided India. He was the prime minister for 10 long years. Let me remind you again, I'm sure you know your history very, very well, son. You can teach me as well. But you have had Justice Muhammad Hidayatullah, a Muslim. Then you have Sam Piroj Barucha, a Parsi as Chief Justice of India. We have also had Fatima Bibi, a Muslim, as Judge of the Supreme Court way back in 1989. So history has shown that India may have overcome its prejudices much before Great Britain. Would you not agree with me?
No, we certainly have been able rightly to showcase our diversity. It's simply that the office of Prime Minister is in a different league. I mean, Britain is also able to point to the so-called great offices of state, that is the Foreign Minister, Finance Minister, Home Minister and Prime Minister, that they've held. People of color, people both of brown descent and black descent have held those positions before. So it's not just those positions. It's the prime ministership, the most powerful office in the land, the person who appoints other ministers, the person in whom confidence has to be expressed by the House. That is a category by itself, Maria. And therefore, we can point to chief justices, for that matter, cricket captains. But the fact is that nothing comes up to match the position of prime minister. And I think Dr. Manmohan Singh was certainly a very, very important. I'm a great fan of Dr. Manmohan Singh's. I think his being prime minister was, again, a recognition of his extraordinary ability and capability as one of the leading policy economists in the world. But the fact still is that most Hindus do not have a problem with the idea of a Sikh or a Jain or a Buddhist, because they see this all as Indic religions. The Hindutvavadis are explicit in saying that it's only those whose Punya Bhumi is in this land whom they consider to be authentic. So what happens if a Muslim or a Christian who practices their faith as overtly as Rishi Sunak practices his wanted to be Prime Minister of India? Would the BJP welcome that? I'd love to see it. If they do, then at that point I'll take my hat off to them and say shabash. But I don't think they're there yet, and I certainly don't see any candidate like that in the offing when you haven't got a single Muslim MP in either House of Parliament. This is really something which has never been the case in the past. All those examples you mentioned come from a past, by and large, where others were in power, including my party, not theirs.
Yes, but Dr. Tharoor, talking about the larger diversity and multiculturalism, many are saying that today, of course, Rishi Sunak has taken charge in UK as the Prime Minister, and it's a big day for Indians world over, because this is also showcasing the long miles that Britain would have traveled in accepting, in giving an institution of that nature to someone who is of Indian origin, a country which sent viceroys to India for several years. Would you say that this is a necessary debate beginning today?
Well, I don't know there's much to debate. I think we have to acknowledge that what they've done is truly extraordinary at multiple levels. They've overlooked race, they've overlooked religion, they've overlooked age, and they've basically just focused on merit at a time when, frankly, their economy is in the doldrums. They've had a world-class financial crisis. Their last Prime Minister, outgoing Prime Minister, resigned after the shortest tenure ever recorded of any Prime Minister in the history of the office in Britain. Given all of that, they wanted a safe pair of hands, somebody who could be counted upon to stabilize the economy, to steer the ship of the British economy in the right direction. And they saw that they had a Chancellor of the Exchequer who'd done a good job, and here he was with experience on Wall Street, experience in the city, former hedge fund, former Chancellor. They said, let's go for him. I think it was really a classic instance of people saying merit trumps every other consideration. Whereas very often in politics, including international politics, merit is not the only consideration. Very often people go for these other thoughts. But clearly the British MPs of the Conservative Party said, either we recognize that this man is a man who can save us, or we face a general election where we're going to get clobbered because the Labour Party is 38% ahead of us in the polls. And with that, they took their decision. I think that actually is to their credit. It doesn't guarantee that Rishi will succeed. It doesn't guarantee that they will still be able to face the electorate against the Labour Party in the foreseeable future. But they've got a couple of years, 2.5 years before an election is due. Maybe Rishi can pull it off. And certainly, as a well-wisher and a friend, I wish him well. I hope he can do it.